We have some new faces again today, which is always great. It makes me happy. And we're going to talk today about sharing business models at different radio stations. Oh, here's another person. And I think because we have a bigger group again, and I know that Susan has to go early. So I think what we'll do is instead of what we usually do is we have like a 2-minute check-in and just saying hello. But just to make sure we have enough time, let's just say hi and where we're from and just throw it around the room. And then we'll just jump right into it and then do it that way. So I'll start. Hi, Stephanie Schubert, Operations Coordinator with Pacifica Network. Good to see you. I'm seeing you from Ames, Iowa, from my house. I've been going into the station with Ursula about once a week for safety measures for COVID. Seems to be working out pretty good. And I'll just throw it over to Matt Murphy. I see you right in the middle there in my screen.
Hi, I'm Matt Murphy. I'm the General Manager of WERU Community Radio in Maine, and we're plugging along here. And I'll send it to Eduardo.
Good afternoon, everybody. Reporting over here from Riverside at KUCR. I'm the only one at the station today. We're also under some strict university policies for who can come here and who can't. So I'm here twice a week, and some of my colleagues should be, if not already, be on here as well. I'll pass it over to my right. Is it Jeannie?
Hi, yeah, my name is Jeannie Trezino. I'm a board member at KZFR Community Radio in Chico, and I'm just broadcasting from or signing in from my home. I'm going to pass it over to, let's go to David Furland.
Hi, thank you, David Furland, WGDR in Plainfield, Vermont. This is the Goddard College. Hi, Matt. Goddard College radio station hasn't had students for almost 20 years. And we're right now in the process of transferring the license from the college trustee ownership to a new community group formed to continue the station because the college can't run it. So kind of open sort of thing. Thank you. Oh, next up is, next to my right is Davni, is that how you pronounce it? Davni.
I think you're muted, Davine.
Trying to unmute here.
There you go.
So, hey, I'm Davine Dial. I'm the general manager of WPVM in Asheville. And in response to David, so we were the recipient of a license. They too ran out of funds to manage the station. And it wasn't a college, it was an internet service provider. So I'd like, somewhere in here, maybe we can hear more of your story, but it's quite a process.
Yeah, that'd be great. We could stick around for that too.
Yeah, so I'll turn it over to David Clan. Is it Clan?
I lost my mouse. Thanks, Davine. Yeah, it's Klon, but thank you. I am in Minneapolis. My home station is KFAI, where I'm just a volunteer, but I also work with a bunch of stations all around the country doing technical help and stuff like that. And I started a station in Viroqua, Wisconsin, so I'm especially curious to hear about
I think I'm
business models.
Good.
Looks like Todd is already unmuted. Todd, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Hi, Todd. We're just doing,
Say hi.
For those who have just joined us, we're just doing a quick hello and where you're from. Since we have such a big group, we're keeping it simple.
Okay.
Where are you from, Todd?
I'm calling from my home in Tunbridge, Vermont. and I
Vermont.
represent WFER LP.
Very good, thank you. Let's see, how about Ellen? We haven't heard from you yet.
Hi, I'm Ellen Sugg. I live in Northern California. I'm station manager of KKRN Community Radio located in Round Mountain, and our city of license is called Bella Vista. We're a rural area in Northern California. KKRN.
You want to pass it on to somebody?
Okay, Elliot Fong.
Hi, I'm Elliot Fong. I'm Associate Director at KUCR at UC Riverside, and it's great to be here with y'all today. Oh, let me balance it to Eddie. Has he gone yet?
I already
He's
went.
my colleague. Oh, you already went? Let's balance that out to David Klein. Did he go yet?
Yeah.
Yep, he did.
Try
We got
again.
one more strike.
Daveen.
Oh, strikeout. I'll pick for you. Let's go to Sean Nestor.
I'm Sean Nestor. I'm at WAKT in Toledo, Ohio.
Good to have you, Sean. Do you want to pass it on?
Sure. Let's pass on to David. Well, no, we did David Furland, right? So, John Braden.
Hey, John Braden, Executive Director, WOMR in Provincetown, Massachusetts. And I can't really see everybody, not in that kind of a view right
Okay.
now. And I got in a
No
little
problem.
bit
I can
late.
help you out. Let's pass it
Thank
to
you.
Matilda.
You caught me with my mouth full. Matilda, Escudi, Santa Cruz, sunny Santa Cruz. It's very nice and warm here. Hi, everyone. I hand it over to Judy.
It's my fault that we're discussing this today, so thank you all for being open to this. I'm Julie Marletto, Program Director at KMRE in Bellingham, Washington, also currently serving as GM.
Thanks, Julie. You brought a big crowd today.
That's good.
I see someone at KMUD, but I do not know their name. If they want to say hi.
Hi, I'm sorry. I'm hanging out. This is Silas. My name is Alyssa De Leon. I'm the station manager at KMUD. I was trying to change my name, but I'm also helping Silas not scream at you guys. So we're in Redway, California, rural Northern California, and I am the station manager.
Good to have you. I see Lewis in the chat says hello, everyone from San Antonio. And I think someone else said hi in the chat. Matt Lobach, KEPW, Eugene, Oregon. And lost my faces here. Here we go. Oh, this looks KMS. Oh, Lewis, KMSW. Were you in the chat or was that someone else?
Yes, that was me.
Okay. Hi.
Hello.
Joseph Orozco. How you doing in Hoopa? Can you hear us, Joseph? We can come back. Okay. We got Eddie. We got. I think that's everybody. Is there anyone who I missed?
Hi, it's Louis Vandenberg at KUCR, so just saying hi.
Hey, Louis, good to have you. Thank you again, everyone, for joining us. My picture has gone weird. I don't know why. Sorry, I'll just take a second here. I might have pushed a weird button. Oh, well, it's okay.
Stephanie,
So,
Stephanie,
yeah.
this is John again. I just want to say, because it's late in the day for me, this is about the time when I transition home. So if my camera goes off, I'm listening, but I'm just moving from the station to home, okay?
Okay, we'll keep that in mind. Thanks.
Thank you.
And thanks again, everyone, for joining us. Like we said at the beginning, we're going to talk about business models and everyone's different business models. Thank you again to Julie Marletto from, here's Sharon. Julie Marletto for bringing up this topic. I think what I'd like to do is have Julie start again and just kind of summarize her question that she had posed about what she wants to know. And then after Julie, we'll go to Susan. Oh, sorry. I was doing a dyslexia there. Ellen Sugg from KKRN, and we'll have her, she's not the official presenter, but she's going to lead off for us and start the conversation. She has to go a little early too, which is why we're going to have her start. And then we'll just let everyone jump in from there. So Julie, it's on. I'll turn it over to you.
Sure. So I asked this question because KMRE is really still in a startup mode from a business standpoint. Feel like we've got the programming fairly well dialed, but we changed hands to formed a different nonprofit a couple of years ago, actually almost 3 years ago now. But I would say we're still weak in that business point of view. And so as I work with our board of directors and serve as general manager right now, was really feeling curious about what sort of revenue model, considering about how do we bring in money? How much do we depend on listeners and supporters versus local business sponsors and grants, and really not having that experience at other community radio stations or public radio or anything like that. It come from commercial radio originally. And then wondering about staffing. So we, all of us at KMRE have full-time jobs. We do this on a volunteer part-time basis. And so thinking about motivating others to come on board, whether it's content creators or key staff members, and wondering, do other people pay their staff? How does that work? And wondering how to motivate people if you can't afford to pay them. We don't have the problem where we have too many people and not enough space. I'm still trying to pull at other people. And then I also have some program producers and hosts who would like to go out and seek out local businesses to sponsor their program, and wondering about like a commission or revenue sharing model there, and wondering what other people do.
Okay, thanks, Julie. And Ellen, we'll turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you very much.
It's a good strong model that she'd like to share. Okay, sorry.
That's okay. I'm sorry I cut you off. Yeah, well, I don't know. We have been on the air for almost 10 years, and I've been involved since before that. Just to give you our demographics a little bit, we're from the rural Shasta County area. There's a big city, so to speak, 90,000 to 100,000 in Reading, which is about 35 miles west of where our station is, but it's our listening area as well. And let's see, I also think it's relevant that it's a red county. 60% here voted for Trump. 40% didn't, which is good, and that's mostly where all of us are, of course. But it's a conservative area. It hasn't always been easy to get support, but basically that's just who we are. We're the first local community radio station in the area. When we started in 2011, there was also JPR, Jefferson Public Radio from Ashland, Oregon, and North State Public Radio from Chico. But we were the only local community station. And we started with a budget of about $25,000 a year. We're up to just $44,000, so we're not big. So I think the next thing I'll do is just try to answer the questions that Julie asked, and then and then I can talk more about what we've done, but I'm not sure how relevant it will be to any of you, so I don't want to carry on too long. The revenue, we have a very clear-cut revenue goal, 50% from—
Everyone make sure they're muted, please. Thank you.
50% from donations, 25% from underwriting, which is business support, and 25% from fundraisers. That's our basic model since about 2 years after being on the air. Originally, we thought we would get 50% underwriters and 50% donations, but in Red County, that wasn't working at all. We were not getting underwriters by going and talking to people about community radio. And after a couple of years, we realized that wasn't working and decided what we had to do was focus on donations. And we upped our expectation of raising 50% in donations and only 25% in underwriters. We did have a few underwriters right from the beginning that understood what we were doing and had progressive values and were willing to help pay for us. So that's basically how it's gone until the pandemic last year, when our fundraising became a lot harder, because obviously you can't do events like concerts and breakfasts and things that we had done successfully for 9 years. So for the first time, we started getting grants for operating expenses because there was COVID relief money and so on. So we basically in this last year have had to make up for the lack of fundraising by writing grants. We had gotten a few previous grants, but they were always for capital things, for equipment. Basically, that's how it works. And I can tell you details like about our underwriting program and how much it costs, et cetera, but and more about fundraising when we can do it. But I don't know, that's not particularly relevant right this minute because I'm sure you're all in the same boat. You can't do live events. Okay, so do we have paid staff? No, we have all volunteers. We do pay the webmaster $40 a month to take care of our kkrn.org website. And we do hire a bookkeeper as a subcontractor for $200 a month. And she basically keeps our books for us by managing QuickBooks. I work closely with her. I oversee all of the income and all of the expenses being paid. So I work with her. So those are not employees, but subcontractors. We have only volunteers for the rest of everything that we do. I would say it's staffed by 3 people that are extraordinarily dedicated, that do the lion's amount of the work. I'm one, and another woman named Bobby Tryon from Chico, which I'm sure my friend from KZFR knows, is still involved with us. She was the program director for 9 years. And then Shane oversees all of the logging and broadcasting. So we have about 15 active volunteers, but 3 that really sort of are making sure, 3 or 4 that are actually, doing it. A lot of the just daily stuff, maintaining things, governance, financial stuff. How to attract members to core staff positions if they're unpaid? That is the $1 million question. We have been able to get good people by looking at who our donors and supporters are and asking them if they want to get involved. But, it's really been one of the toughest things. We have an Acorn, we have a nonprofit that owns the station, or quote unquote owns the station, that is made up of 5 people, and they oversee finance and legal stuff. Then we have a radio council that is right now 5 people that take care of all the business, oversee really the working of the radio. And then we have a program committee that's 5 people that oversees programming. And there's overlaps, like I'm on all of those committees except for the logging. So anyway, I don't know. We were extraordinarily lucky with the Acorn board to get 2 young people, because most of us are all 60 and 70. And we did manage to get 2 people, because they like the radio, to come on board. One is a Native American from our area. She's an indigenous person, a Pitt River tribe member, and an accomplished young woman who's the controller of the Redding Rancheria. She's an accountant herself. And then the other one is a lawyer who is a local guy who is progressive, and just, they both are progressive. And so I really appreciate having them. And, I don't know, honestly, it's the hardest thing is getting people. And we worry about who's going to take over for us when we can't do it anymore, if that ever happens, which of course it will. So I I don't want to go into any more details unless anybody, especially if people have questions or about it. Oh, and I also want to say hi to Matt. Matt, I came to your station a few years ago to visit in the summer.
Oh,
WERU, do you remember?
yeah.
My sister lives near you and said, take me to this radio station. And I came and visited. We took pictures together.
Yeah. Great. Nice to see you again.
Yeah, nice to see you.
Open up the floor for questions.
Is she low power? Because she said she had to reach over to, I think she said 35 miles.
Oh, no, we're not. We don't have a huge amount of power, but we're not low power, no. We have an excellent location. We're in the mountains. And so our tower is a mile high. And it's, so that's why we go quite a distance. So we have a lot of, we're in a listening area of 125,000 people.
I could jump in here, Todd in Vermont.
Mhm.
So we are low power. We are all volunteer. Our breakdown of numbers, our total budget is about 25,000. We are about to turn 8. Membership, in my mind, early on was, I thought, pretty important. I'm sure that it is for most stations. We had our first membership drive only 2 years ago. At our 6th birthday, raised about $1,000. Last year, we scrubbed it. We did not have it because it was in the middle of March. Not a good time to ask people for money, as you all know, during the beginning of the pandemic. And last night, when I brought up whether we should once again attempt, kind of an on-air membership drive, the board said, we just actually had our best financial year ever in 2020 without having a member drive. So we will not do a member drive. We did an outdoor member appreciation party with live music where we did get quite a few members. So that worked out pretty well. Underwriting, very important to us, probably 30 to 40%, but we depend on special events. One of them is a bicycle ride that we were able to do COVID safe, and matching grant went with that. And that accounted for about 25% of our budget. Just to address the one question about particularly if you're all volunteer, I would recommend against commissions for staffers to get underwriters. I think it creates sort of a potential conflict of interest, and it's kind of an unlevel playing field with the other staff. I think programmers for us will go out and get underwriters that they know from businesses. Our board, certainly, as most boards, are charged with trying to find business support. But I think the commission idea, I certainly wouldn't go there.
Oh, I can also say we don't use commissions either. And Julie, do you have any particular questions? Wherever you are.
I was going to follow up and ask about the commissions because that has come up with a few different producers. I think, I've discussed it with the board. I would say we have a gap in volunteers to do outreach to local business sponsors. So I think if we could close that gap and make some things happen, that would be helpful from our revenue standpoint. I still have, at least in this community, I will say one of my challenges is, I'll try to recruit people to become involved and they'll say, great, how much does it pay? Or, well, why would I do that? I can do my own podcast and I can monetize it. And that's something that keeps coming up for me. And, I do it because I have a tremendous passion for it. But I would say some of us maybe on this call are the rarity. So I've got a lot of fringe people, and that is the obstacle that I've come up against. So I just thought, I was curious, I've been against the commission model, but I thought, well, I need to ask that question. If that's what everyone is doing, then I need to get on board with that.
So how do you figure out how much to charge for underwriting? Does any of you subscribe to Nielsen ratings to find out exactly what your listenership is, or what?
I don't, we don't, I always think I should get into the Nielsen thing, but I haven't done that. But I can just tell you our underwriting rates go from 40 a month to 100 a month. That's it. And it depends on how often you want to be on the, every day or every other day, and how much in advance you're willing to pay us. And then we do trades with some businesses.
So how many reads do they get for $40 or to $100 a month?
Okay, it's either 2 a day or 2 every other day. So it's 30 or 60 a month.
And do you underwrite the, are you an affiliate of Pacifica? Do you underwrite their shows, or do you underwrite people's individual shows that's local?
What do you mean underwrite? I mean, once we have our people as underwriters, which it's about 20, I guess, 20 different businesses, we just put 2 announcements. If a business wants to have their name associated with a certain show, we'll put their 2 announcements there, or at least one of them. But otherwise, everybody just gets 2 a day, and they're spread between, the morning drive time to the evening. So you're not linked with a particular show unless you ask to be there every day.
We do keep
I
ours.
see we had K-Mud and then whoops.
I wanted to say we are just starting the idea of offering commission to our employees for underwriters. And that's actually in an effort to reduce funds, because we do have paid employees, and we had a dedicated underwriting rep and that we were paying an hourly wage, and with the changes in our local economy, that wasn't practical anymore. So we are looking at starting to offer commission to our other employees instead of having a dedicated employee.
Any response to that?
Yeah, if I could, it's a little bit to the person from KMUD as well as to Julie. Our board made originally we were not allowed to sell any underwriting. It was thought of as going to pollute our mission or something. After many years of working together on that topic, we came up with a new model, which at first I thought was a little bit hamstringing me, but I thought later it's actually pretty good. Underwriting is never support any individual program, which creates a firewall between programming and underwriting, which can't be really, messed with by management. There's no, you can't underwrite any specific program. And the other thing is, I think that they would probably feel the same way about individual people. Well, I'm not sure about the commission thing, but certainly they didn't want to create a situation where shows that were appealing to business interests were in a better position at the station.
Well, thanks, Felix. I want to go to Matilda, and then
Okay, so
and then yeah.
Right. So basically, K-Squid has underwriting reps. We're not paying anybody, just because we have specific protocol on what to say and what to do. You don't want to get in trouble with anybody just go out there bringing in some money and then misleading any underwriting or businesses. So we have it very well set up. We have an underwriting rep for recommendations from programmers, and she, so they get a recommendation, she goes out and she gets 20% of what she brings in. Then we have another underwriting rep, and he does cold calling, whatever. He goes out and whatever he brings in, he gets 30%. And like I said, we have a very strict, you have to, now you cannot pay programmers to do their own underwriting. Say they want to underwrite something for their own programs, because that's of course pay for play. And you can't do that. So you have to be very careful with that. But we have programmers who get people to underwrite, and then the official underwriting rep for referrals, she takes over. And as treasurer, I keep a close eye on all of that. Commission works. It's very hard, for two reasons. It's very hard for people what to say and how to do it. And the second thing is you take a big risk if there's anybody goes out there and say something, especially to businesses, that they can later sue you. So that's my warning.
Thanks, Matilda. I see that Sean, did you still want to talk? And then Davine? Sean has passed. Okay, Davine?
Yeah, so it'll help if we kind of have an idea of how long you've had the station. Are you independent or are you affiliated with college or some other umbrella type organization? Are you low power? And if you're not, what's your wattage? And do you have paid employees, or is everyone volunteer? I know that's a lot, but it just will help if, since we're all stations are unique, and to give those of us who are really all volunteer run and in the same situation as the first speaker, where we're all of a certain age. So if you can, give us a little bit of idea of what your station, how long it's been around, if nothing else.
I can add that information. So we are not a low power station. We decided to have 2 half-time employees. We first had them as contractors. And by the way, whoever said that she has subcontractors, especially in California, you're not allowed to do that. Once they're contractors and they're on a regular basis, functioning kind of like employees, you have to make them employees. So we had to change that. So we have 2 half-time employees, 1 a program director and a operating assistant. And they actually take care of the recording and the programming of the underwriting, plus a lot of other things. So we're not low powered. What was the other question, Davine? Unmute yourself.
How long you've been operating?
As of February 15th, coming up, 2 years.
How many?
2. Coming up next month.
We have almost the same birthday, Matilda. We're February 14th.
Yay, you beat us.
I know. A few years on you too. That's okay though. You guys are full power, so you get us there. I'm Sharon Scott with Louisville, Kentucky. If it's okay, are we good for me to jump in here, Stephanie?
Yeah,
Cool.
I thought, Matt, did you want to say something, or were you just, wait, your hand was moving?
No, I'll wait. I'll wait till
Okay.
after Sharon.
Okay, we'll go Sharon and then Matt. Okay.
Thanks, Matt. I didn't see that. Just quickly, Devine, I won't remember all your questions, but I'll do my best. So we're low power FM. We're about to be 5 years, which is crazy. We do have 2 paid staff members. It's myself and our engineer. And other than that, we sometimes, and we're actually, I shouldn't say employees. Technically, we are still contractors, which is a debate amongst our board, but we'll save that for another time. And let's see, we do offer a commission on our underwriting. We do it, very wise advice by Felix, not to underwrite specific shows. We didn't want to get tied in financially to keeping certain shows on the air or in certain time slots. So we do it we actually underwrite the time slot itself. So people can underwrite a show that they like. The one that's on now, 4 to 6 p.m., 100 Proof Fountain. They really wanted to underwrite that specific show, but we made it clear that they were underwriting that actual time slot and that we could at any point move the show, or they're volunteers, so they often leave. We didn't want to be, left empty-handed if they left and not knowing what to do with the contract. So we make that very clear with the underwriter, and we let them know if we change the schedule and move the show to another time slot, that they can either stay in the time slot where they are, or they can move to the new time slot. We do offer, trade exclusivity. So, we'll only have one restaurant, say, per time slot. And right now we have a limit of 2 sponsors per time slot. And we've just kept it very simple. We're 97.1 FM. So it's $97.10 a month to underwrite that time slot. And the sponsors get an announcement at the beginning, at the end of the show. And then they get some social media and their logo on the website, signage in the studio wall, press and on-stage announcements at our events when we have them, things like that. So, but it's not the biggest part of our income. It could be something that we grow, but we do think it's valuable not only to our station as a moneymaker, but also to the community. Right now we have all local businesses supporting our station, so we feel like it's an important job for us to get the word out about local businesses as well. So, so we're okay with monetizing a little bit, even though we're just always making sure our content is not affected by that. I guess I'll pass it on to Matt.
Well, we're a little bigger than everyone who's spoken so far, and but we have a budget of about $500,000. We started 32 so years ago with 1 staff person and just a bunch of super dedicated people volunteering. So we've grown over time. But in terms of your questions, Julie, we have about 60% of our revenue is members, listener members. There's about a quarter, as we're super fortunate to be a CPB funded station. So about a quarter comes from CPB. And then the last quarter is a mixture of underwriting, with the lion's share of that is underwriting and other grants and events. But we don't make a lot of money on events. We don't we don't necessarily try to do events that are big money makers. We do some, but they're smaller, more outreach and engagement than money makers. We have a staff bigger than anyone I've heard so far. We have 7 members on the staff. Like I said, 30 years ago, it was 1. We have about 100 volunteers who are on the air, 100 and, well, more than 100, about somewhere varies between 100 and 120 or so at any given time. In terms of underwriting, I won't go into our plan in great detail, but I would say that I heard before is, the underwriting is of the station, not of the specific show. And so the underwriting announcements start with support for WERU comes from, we used to do it for this show, but I heard from a nice presentation from WORT years ago that it has more of a community sound when it's not singling out a show. It's support for the whole station and support for the diversity of your station, not just the bluegrass show or not just the reggae show. We do underwriting trades as well for goods and services and certainly media trades with the local agricultural festival. We're a sponsor. We trade for sponsorship with a lot of other organizations. And they get underwriting announcements and we get credited however they credit sponsors of the events. One thing I would say, whether you do commission or no commission, commission reps who are the only ones selling underwriting, or a salaried or hourly person, is have really clear materials for both the people who are selling and the businesses who may be buying, so that problem of getting people either misunderstanding, feelings hurt, or even legal problems. If you have a real clear, rate sheet and explanation sheet that you can email to someone or is on your website or that you can hand out, because the problems I've heard and we had here in the past a long time ago is when it's sort of muddy, like why does somebody get this deal and somebody gets this deal, because they knew this person, they knew that person, and that's just in a rural area. That's just a disaster waiting to happen. So we've evolved over time to have a pretty clear, very clear underwriting rate sheet and rules and regs sheet. So I would advise, however you do it, to work on that first.
That was really good.
We have done that. Thank you for your advice there.
Whoops. I saw a question for Davine from Felix. A question about your question. Do you remember what your question was, Davine? Felix was wondering if you were asking everyone of that.
If that's a good place for the meeting to go to, I mean, if that would be, it seems like it would be useful. I don't know. Do folks feel like that's a good way to go to sort of share those particular details?
I'm seeing heads nodding.
All right. Actually, I'll go next. If I could just get a question from Matt too. How many people are in your listening area or terrestrial?
The CPB says 180,000. So, and the census, well, they actually changed that to 140. It used to be 180, and we haven't had 40,000 people leave. So I'm not sure. Let's say 160.
Okay, exact metrics. Yeah, we're the full power NCE. Although our coverage area has not been amazing, we got a CP recently, so we're going to be expanding greatly to our rural communities around here, which is great. We have about 100, we've always said 120,000. It's probably going to grow a little bit, not that much really, because we have covered the main populated areas, but for commuters and folks living in rural areas, that will really change, and with hope that'll change our outlook for underwriting. We only started underwriting, like I mentioned, a couple of years ago. We have not had great success selling it. We did, following a presentation I saw NFCB, I can't remember which station it was, but we did a giveaway in the fall of 2020 to anybody who had supported the station in the past, as a way to say, well, first of all, we only sell to local businesses. That's also in our policy. But we went to any business that had supported us, whether they'd given items for our fund drive or they had done an underwriting contract in the past. Every single one of them we gave 3-month contract to, just to say, thanks, we know times are hard during COVID. And so far that's generated a lot of goodwill. I don't know if it will translate to sales later, but it's a good way. It also fills up our schedule. I understand it's a matter of supply and demand. If it sounds like you guys, if you were selling a lot of underwriting, other people might in fact want to get on board. So there's that. Our budget is it's gone up recently because I got a half-time assistant, which was just amazing. We're at about $125,000. We can pretty much ignore the underwriting. It's very, very small, a few $1,000s. Otherwise, we're about 60-40 or maybe slightly better. A membership to a major grant that we have continued to get.
I want to make sure I get everyone's questions in there. I see Matt Laubach is asking, how do you determine listenership to charge for underwriting?
We don't. We bought some Nielsen rating stuff a few years ago, but we're not in a market that they really measure all that well. So it was really kind of useless to us. We bought some of it to be able to say our listeners range from 1,000 to 10,000 at any given time. It's a pretty big, hard to sell on that. And that's probably generous too. But we looked at what some other, looked at what other stations and rural stations did, and we're all, copying off each other. I think that's, and we looked at what the big public broadcaster in the area and went much lower than them. So we have, if you broke it all down, it's about $13 a spot for a for-profit business and $10 a spot for a nonprofit. But something that we've done, and we have packages of 3 months, 6 months, et cetera. But something that we, our underwriting, like everyone else's, took a huge hit is still taking a huge hit. We, lost about a third of our underwriting all went away. And so what we've done though, is anyone who hasn't been able to do it, we've just kept their underwriting going and saying, thanks for being with us for all this time. When you're ready to pay again, let us know, but we're going to just keep running you as long as there's spots, available. So, and that's been pretty warmly received, like the giving out free underwriting contracts for building, community support. It's works something like that. Yeah. That's a really neat idea, Felix.
Kathy has something to say.
Can you hear me? We had trouble
Yes.
last time. Yay! So Kathy Rivers, KXCI Community Radio in Tucson, full power FM, $1 million budget, 10 staff members. And I'd like to address underwriting because it was something that was interesting when I came to KXCI almost 10 years ago. As program director, my general manager said, hey, and here are your new underwriting clients. We're selling spots at $7 a spot. And I was like, $7? What? And I got, I think, 9% commission on a $7 spot. Certainly wasn't motivated. And at that time, he had decided that the umbrella of staff should sell underwriting. And as soon as I became executive director, I brought in an underwriting director. Our underwriting at that time was about $30,000 a year. And as of last year, pre-COVID, we moved up to $200,000 a year. She receives commission only 20% with a base salary to handle logs and scripts. And she came from commercial radio, very motivated, but loved community radio. And sorry, we're not university affiliated. I think that was the other question. We're independent. But I went looking for someone who was hungry and someone who was motivated and loved community radio and wanted to make money and get out of the rat race of having to wear stockings and skirts to go on business calls. And she really achieved, again, in almost 7 years, from $30,000 to $200,000 a year. And again, I give her a base to handle the scripts, and she had to learn. And by listening to NPR and other radio stations, she learned the rules. She followed the FCC, she followed the CPB, and really discovered how to create underwriting for a community radio station. And now we were hit like everyone. We lost about 50% of our underwriting, 40 to 50% during COVID. So because she's so valuable, and we will come back from this, I removed her from commission, put her on a salary to retain her so she wouldn't go somewhere else, because right now TV sales are really up. And so I just, I sat down with her and I said, I want to retain you through this. What can we do to work together? So we moved her to a salary position for 6 months, which will be up in March. And then we'll take her back to commission and see how she can do. So I really feel a dedicated underwriting director is important. And she has 3 different tiers. There's a run of schedule. So for, I think it's maybe $20, you get your spot goes wherever we decide. For $25 a spot, you can pick and choose what shows you want to be on. And then our short form features that I think I mentioned in the last meeting that we do in between our music mixes and before and after Democracy Now!, which airs at noon our time. She also will sell those to certain people who are very excited and love that program. So Pedaling the Pueblo will be sponsored by a bicycle shop, or Mrs. Green's World will be sponsored by Hummingbird Market. And again, that's really worked for us. And it might be different for different people, but I remember really struggling with my job and the idea of having to sell underwriting. And sales is just like being a radio DJ, sales is a very unique position. You've got to feel really good about doing it. And there also has to be this excitement. And what's amazing, in the last 6 years, there are payrolls that I run where her name's Leah Ray, our underwriting director, her paycheck's more than mine. And I'll have people say to me, well, does that bother you? And I'm like, hell no, it means she's making the station money and she's out there selling, and she should. And again, I'll remind everyone who wasn't here last week, because I do come from a commercial radio background, but have been in community radio now for well over 10 years in a 30-year career. And I just feel that an underwriting director, one person or 2 people selling underwriting that know how to do it, is really good, and allowing them to make whatever they want to make. I went on a little longer, I meant to, sorry.
No, thanks, Kathy. John, did you still have something you wanted to say?
I guess I was going to talk about underwriting. I think we're a 40-year-old station, almost 40-year-old station, and we, like Matt Murphy, we've gone from, a volunteer office manager to now not 7, but 3 full-time employees. We do have 2 underwriting salespeople. One of them, after a few years, decided that he was only going to do renewals. He wasn't going to look for new business. So we hired a second person by giving them, there's a term for it, but by giving them their salary in advance for a certain period. So we will pay you in advance, to build these relationships. And he built a deck and all kinds of things like that. And that worked out really well. So, and these guys get, I want to say 30% if it's a new contract, 20 or 25%. I don't know the numbers exactly if it's a return contract. Our underwriting makes up maybe, I'd say 15% of our budget, which isn't a lot. In fact, there's probably only 35 to 40 underwriters, and most of them underwrite the station. It's always programming on WOMR is sponsored in part by. There's a couple of foundations that do underwrite alternative radio and Democracy Now! We're okay with that. As far as losing business, we have not lost any business during COVID. We lost the local hospital, but we gained the local suicide prevention organization, which made up for it, interestingly. And there was something else I wanted to bring up. What we did lose, however, is about half of our trades. Our trades amounted to about $80,000 a year. This past year, they amounted to $40,000 a year. I think it's important to bring that up only because we are also a recipient of the CPP funding. And CPP funding looks at what's called non-federal funding, and those trades are considered non-federal funding. So what we've done with some of them, like for instance, there's a couple of food providers that we use for events. We have a triathlon every year, although not this past year. They supply food for that. They supply food for our pledge drives for the volunteers. So instead of getting rid of them, because we're not getting any food from them, I just kept the contract open, reduced their shout outs to a couple of times a week, and wrote the contract up to say that they would supply food as needed, even though I suspect we won't be ordering food anytime soon. I don't know if that's helpful. We are 6,000 watts. We have a second signal about 30 miles away, which is about 1,000 watts.
Any more discussion on that subject?
What trades are you doing, John? What kind of providers besides the food that you mentioned?
So a lot of them are, like Matt had mentioned, they're media sponsorship trades. So in exchange for promoting their programming and there's a lot of arts organizations where we get our logo in their program, we get shout outs from the stage and things like that. We also work together with some of these organizations to do events.
Cool.
There is one trade that's the local newspaper, if you want to call it that. It's Gatehouse, but they own a few of the local newspapers. In exchange for putting spots in the air for them, we get print ads, which is probably a $16,000, $17,000 trade.
Cool, thank you.
I can give you a real quick example of a trade that we do too, like the Maine Organic Farmers and Gardeners Association, very big outfit, and they have a big fair, agricultural fair, and we do trade underwriting announcements for primo booth space at the fair and advertising in their fair guide. This year, since it was virtual, we had thanks over their webinars and also our logo, and then an ad as well this year. So those are the kind of things that we trade for. And that one actually, some of these trades can lead to programming, because over a number of years of doing that trade, after a while, we said, hey, we like each other. Why not do a show? And a really good show evolved out of that it wasn't a pay or play thing. It just naturally happened from the relationship. So.
Okay, any more on that topic, or did I see Felix again? I think you're muted.
Alyssa, I think she's muted, but I think she has something to say.
I wanted to give an example we do a lot of trades as well. We're also almost a 40-year-old station and have a staff of 7, so similar to you, Matt. One of our biggest fundraisers that we were not able to do this year is we're notorious at all the local festivals for making the best iced coffee, and that's something we've done for maybe 25 years, and we get our beans from a local roaster. So when we're announcing, we're going to come meet your favorite DJs at the Summer Arts Fair and get Kmon's famous iced coffee with beans from Signature Coffee. Signature gets the notoriety that maybe at home you could make your iced coffee as good as ours. The secret is really just a whole bunch of sugar. but we have a long-term relationship with them, and then they do sponsorship of our mugs that we sell at events with our logo big on the front and then Signature Coffee on the back. They buy the mugs for us, have them printed that way, and then again get free notoriety with our pushing of our coffee that we make.
It sounds like coffee I would like.
It's really good.
So there's some questions about those partnerships. So last year we did interviews with, we did a trade of interviews with the local Rotary Club, who was having a big fundraiser, and one of the local famous artist was their featured artist. And for that, we got headline on all of their information about being a community, supporter or whatever. We had their second tier of their promoters. But we also do Goodwill of Western North Carolina. And when it's not COVID, they come in and do a show once a month that acquaints people with all the different great things that they do in the community. And for that, we get around $1,600 a year from them.
Any more on this topic?
I guess if we could, it's kind of on the same topic in terms of fundraising, but one of our main generators of income, as many of you all, are events. And our big event is on our birthday, Valentine's Day. We're coming up on that now. And obviously, the in-person thing isn't going to be working out. So I'm just curious if you guys have had any success. This might be a whole new can of worms, so maybe this might be for another time. But as we're going into this, any ideas for great ways to handle the in-person events online? Is that too far off topic, Stephanie? Should we save that for another time?
Not necessarily. I just want to check with Felix. You said from Rotary. What were you referring to?
Devine's question, Devine's comment about $1,600 a year, talking about the things that they do. I'm sorry, I just skipped a beat. Was that who?
Goodwill is the $1,500 or $1,600 a year. The Rotary was a trade of about $4,000 to $5,000 worth of spots and live promotions and live streaming to social media interviews.
And how is that not? Is that sponsored programming then for the?
Somebody else is coming on. Can you repeat it?
Is that Paul? Can you mute Paul?
It sounds like sponsored programming. Is that for Goodwill? Is that a pay to play type situation, or is it because they're not profit?
So they're an underwriter, and they're an underwriter versus partner. I'm sorry.
So the $1,600 is for spots, but they also do this thing where they come in.
Yes.
Gotcha.
And we live stream it, so they have a live interview that goes to social media.
Thank you.
Okay, and I saw someone had a Matt. Matt wanted to say something.
So I was wondering about this as a strategy, like using programming by building partnerships with organizations, like to help gain listenership. So I live in Eugene. Our station is Eugene P. I'm on the board of Eugene Peaceworks, and so we operate the station. So I remember during radio summer, before we got our construction permit and license, I was the only one in Eugene to sign up for one of these things. And lo and behold, we got a construction permit. So what Prometheus told us, and they really drilled into us, that we need to partnership with other community organizations in order to survive as a station. And so that, we don't, Eugene Peaceworks is, a nonprofit, and we didn't have pockets deep enough to fund and operate our own station. We just didn't. So, and then they said that if you build partnerships with organizations, it's easier for the FCC in case that some other buddy contests the license and the frequency and whatever, that they would give it to a partnership of organizations rather than individual organization. Well, anyway, nobody contested us. So, but anyway, I'm under the belief that if we can give shows to people like community rights organizations, like, or organizations like labor, have the AFL-CIO do a show on labor, or have like some organization do shows on whatever community problems there are out there, because there's more members behind the organization than they are of individuals who come up and want to demand time to do a show. See, I'm personally against giving individuals time for doing programming. And there's a solicitation on our website that exactly does that. And so what we get is like friends of the board or friends of the general manager who want to do, time on our air. And they have maybe 6 friends who listen to them. So I think that if we had more community organizations do programming, they have more of a staff and to actually, they're working on real issues that are going on in the community. And so, and they have members who are a part of their organization. So then if we can get their membership to listen to us, then that will build our listenership, and then we can underwrite all this stuff. And so that's my 2 cents. What do you think?
Thanks, Matt. Any response to that?
I think that's an excellent point.
All right. And we got another. David, do you concur, or you do have something that you want to say?
Hi, we had good luck, and we have 400 nonprofits in our 2 counties where we haven't, and we've had good luck reaching out to them. The ones that seem to be interested and capable and who want to do it have a thing called a community outreach coordinator. And if you have the nature center in our town has an outreach coordinator, and you reach out to 10 outreach coordinators, and their job is to get the word out about the nature center. So then we get a show with the guy who's obsessed with the birds who live here. And we have the farmer the farmer who is obsessed with his, okay, we have to quell his enthusiasm, but community outreach coordinators in these nonprofits are a good way to discern which ones are going to be exploitative of you and which are going to be committed to creating a program. Furthermore, we had problems with two nonprofits that we owed them, and we were doing them a huge favor. I mean, they were doing us a huge favor. That's what it was. They were doing us a huge favor and saving us. And so they began to be a bit bossy. And so we're in charge of programming here. And they said what they wanted to say because they're helping. You asked us to come here. So it needs to be handled carefully with an eye on what, with these outreach coordinators, train them how to be a community producer first. And if they are, so there's a percentage of the nonprofits that want to reach the community and then that can do it and create something that isn't going to be exploitative of your station. We've done that over 20 years. We've done a lot of that at our station.
Thank you, David. Kathy, I see you got your hand up.
Yeah, so I think that, again, there's, especially with all of our stations, again, ours is 37 years old. There's a lot of finesse and things that evolve. And I really appreciate what you said, David. One of the things we found, because Tucson has so many incredible nonprofits, before we reached out to anyone, we said, okay, let's create the nonprofit spotlight. So now we invited all of the nonprofits to start listening to this 2 to 5 minute program that features their organizations completely for free. And then they're listening and they're getting excited and they're feeling good and they're believing in community radio and they come to us. And then there's the balance of, do they get it? We used to call them PSAs. We now call them community impact announcements, which are free. Or would they like to sponsor the nonprofit spotlight? And this is going to sound a little devilish, but we almost created competition among our nonprofits of like, well, I'm going to sponsor this week, even though it's about the community food bank and I'm big brother, big sister. So we've kind of created this programming and invited all of them in to invest in the community radio. And it does, like I said, it does get a little tricky because they will first ask us for free stuff. Like, we'd love a community impact announcement. We have this event. Do you want to partner? And we have to push a little bit and always say, right now our community impact announcement rotation is full. Here's our underwriting rates for nonprofits. Feel free to call Leah, our underwriting director. And, and we keep those at a reduced rates for nonprofits and hope that they can then come back and sponsor us. So I just wanted to mention but it's taken time. That did not happen overnight. It was really about us starting something, us valuing the other people in our community, inviting them in, having them take a listen, getting them invested, and then getting them invested.
Any thoughts on that? Oh, I see a thumbs up from Matt Murphy. Looks like a lot of yeses.
It sounds very clean. I'm sorry for talking so much, but I did have a follow-up question for David Furland. Hi, David. Good to see you. There's been some concern at our station about folks getting paid by their nonprofit where they work or whatever agency they are to do programming at our station. In that all other programmers are volunteers. What Kathy described sounds very clean and well defined, but what you described, it sounds to me like some situations where we've been like, what, this is not, this isn't all about promoting, like you said, it's about creating community. It's not about promoting only the things that that your organization does. Do you see any problems with that they're maybe getting paid to do the programming, or is that a plus?
We had huge problems with that. And It started off as people we know and people we had relationships with already. And so that's why we had to create a wall between becoming a programmer. So they can't do it as part of their job. They have to be a programmer. And so in that way, we retain control of the programming because you can't get paid to be on the air or something like that. I mean, well, we lost control of programming. Who was in control of the program? And so we gave up the content. We just said, do a show. And we're slack about training and context. WGDR has been at a college for almost 50 years now. And we have two full power license towers, each about 1,000 watts in 2 counties. And so we have a lot of college habits. We had 7 employees, now we have 2. And we soon, in the next 2 months, will have probably 0. And, you know, if I can find a job, I'll do this on the side, but we don't know what's going to happen. So, but we've learned a lot of lessons about control of programming. At a college, there's a lot more experimentation, and so that's where we found out that you can't have agendas that are not your own at the station. So partnerships, defined as a partnership, we have a lot of those, and we partner up with the local film festival, and we get spots for ads, and the local pizza shop spots for pizzas for our meetings, back when we used to do stuff like that, meetings and things. Maybe again, but we don't pay commissions for underwriting. Because we mismanaged the whole thing, and we kept mismanaging the whole thing. So a lot of the reasons were because it recycled a lot. Even though we stayed here, the college recycled a lot. So what was the question? Nonprofits doing their own shows. Don't do it. Programmers do shows.
I think Alyssa and Matt Murphy, did you both, and then Sharon? Alyssa, did you still have something you wanted to say?
I did. Hold on. Well, let me get this baby a thing. I was going to say what we do is we have a show that is a board of directors rotating host show. Sorry. And that means that every week we host a different nonprofit board who can present on a topic of their choice, but there is an engineer who is a programmer in-house facilitating the show with the board. So that person is ultimately responsible for making sure things are within our guidelines. But that's how we include a lot of organizations. And then what we get back on the other side is that those organizations often right after the show will be like, oh, we're having a dinner party, we're having an auction, what are your underwriting rates, so that we can promote our event coming up. And it works really well in our community.
Thank you, Alyssa. Matt?
I think that the programming partnerships can work. David, I definitely hear you. They can get out of control, and you lose control of programming, and it's off on its own thing, and then you have a stinky situation to deal with. But I think the key is having real good training and real clear expectations that this is not an infomercial for your community, your organization. You're not here to be an advocate. You're here to be a facilitator of conversation in your area of expertise. But bring on guests. We avoid having a show with like the farmer from the Maine Organic Farmers and Gardeners Association. He facilitates guests in the field, but he doesn't it's not his show to pontificate. And we really make that really clear in the training. And if we do have any problems with that, you know, in a very constructive way, we come down on that person to stop doing it that way. But the training and the clear expectations and then reinforcement of that is really, really important, because we have, just like David, we've had some sticky situations too. So you got to be clear about things.
And what I'd like to add is we started with a volunteer who was doing our nonprofit spotlight. Now that COVID's happening, it's a staff member who hosts it. And one of the things, just so that what Alyssa, to add on to what Alyssa said as well, is that so now every 2 weeks, it's a different little mini, short form feature. And we make sure they're evergreen. It's just a spotlight on the organization. And if you want to, go off and talk about an event, then you can buy Underwriting. That's a whole different thing. So it's just a spotlight. And again, when we've had trouble cultivating new volunteer hosts, we send out a newsletter to all the nonprofits in town and say, we need a new host. We want to keep this going. We have all these amazing nonprofits, Arizona nonprofit professionals, whoever. We just say, someone step forward, and then we do have to train them. I mean, that's, what Matthew and David were saying is you've got to train them. You've got to get them down to 3 questions. What's your organization? What is your mission? And what would you like to tell us about your organization? And anything else you can buy Underwriting for in the future.
Thanks, Kathy. Let's go to Sharon and then David.
Well, that's why Kathy has $1 million budget, and we do not. We give away all of our announcements to local nonprofits. We have a PSA program where they can just submit it's not underwriting, just public service announcements. We don't let them fundraise. Obviously, that would be an FCC violation. But we will let them get the word out about an event they might be having, as long as the language is right. And when we first started the station, in order to get shows on the schedule, we actually actively went out to local nonprofits and asked them would they be interested in doing a radio show. And we got some great response for that. And we've had some programs that have been on our air for 5 years or more, from the Louisville Visual Art Association, the Asia Institute Crane House, Louisville Academy of Music. And they're wonderful because they're bringing in, the art show is bringing in local artists, the music show is bringing in, local musicians, and actually recording their students and getting them on the air. Asia Institute Crane House, of course, is letting us know about all the wonderful holidays we might not know about that are celebrated in other parts of the world. So I really think that these shows have been very understanding of the community mission of our station and brought a lot of value to it. At the same time, and I really appreciate David's statements here, because we have had what we might call some kind of abuse of our airwaves or that sort of thing. When they try to sneak in their fundraising efforts, or they, recently, this actually just happened very recently on, like a Sunday. I was trying to take the day off, and one of our nonprofits was basically trying to sell Underwriting. It sounded like they were actually in a meeting with Republic Bank on selling Underwriting for their show, that they were going to keep all the Underwriting. And she just wanted to run something past me. And I was like, what? Excuse me, and it became, it was like this 2-week back and forth thing between me and her, and she couldn't understand why they couldn't, make money off of our radio station. And it's so frustrating, because you're giving it an hour of airtime, you're giving them the free PSAs, every time. They also would get a promo for their show. Anyway, it was just really difficult, and it felt like they didn't appreciate what we had given them already, and were really trying to take advantage of the one thing that we have to make money on. So I think that it's really good advice to, yes, train the DJs, make sure they've come through your program, and make sure it's just very clear with your partner organizations that, this is just a volunteer thing that they're doing for the community.
I have to run pretty soon, but if I could say one more thing, and then I'll go real quickly, is first of all, we were a $500,000 budget only 6 years ago. So let me just point that out. I would really encourage fostering the value of community radio. And Sharon, even if you approach your nonprofits and say $3 a spot, because one of the things I always say, when you look at the other nonprofits in our communities, people, I mean, it's hard when we all write grants. We're not curing cancer. We're not saving puppies and babies, but we are sharing our microphone with the voices of the people who are, and they're writing grants. And I would suggest, and it's not easy, talking to people and saying, could you write a small marketing budget into your grant for our community radio station? And again, even if this year you start out at $3 a spot, even, you know, $5 a spot, and start building that. So that becomes that revenue stream, but it also becomes a value stream more than money. I mean, you can go to your board and be like, yeah, we only made $5,000 or $2,000 or $1,000, but that revenue stream is a value stream. And that's how we build that sort of community connection. I know asking for money is not easy. It's taken me a really long time to learn to do it, but we all believe in what we do. We believe in our community voices and our microphones, and it's reminding people how important that microphone is. So you've got kittens, you've got baby goats, you're curing cancer. Let me hand you this microphone, and we're going to talk about that to our community. And it may be you talking about it so that they're not, you know, doing their own show, but you've got someone on staff or volunteer that's passionate about this to help. And then they come to you and say, okay, we're going to put you in the marketing budget. It's only $300. Well, that's awesome. And then you go to the next nonprofit and say, this person gave us $300. Could you do 400? So I don't mean to be too preachy. I have to run, but I know it's not easy, but it's so important. And the nonprofits, again, they're writing grants. Boys and Girls Club here in Tucson, they get $1 million grants, and then they want free PSAs. They can afford a little bit of money to give to their community radio. They obviously see we're of value. They're coming to us.
Right on, Kathy. That's awesome.
Sorry.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I think there's some good advice there. I think there's kind of a middle ground is what I'm kind of seeing from you, you know, where we could still offer some free PSAs and then kind of actually get them hooked and they like it and they're interested and they're listening, like you said. And then, you know, after however much time, you know, hey, this is great. Do you think you could give us $300 to keep it going or whatever, something like that. So thank you for the good advice. And I think it's very often that community radio doesn't recognize their value. So I really appreciate you jumping in with that.
And I see that Paul's asking Kathy if you can put your contact info in the chat.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And then I got to run. I got a husband and dogs that are just barking away at me.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be a part of this group, and I'm glad I could make it. And I'm always here for anyone who wants to reach out with any resources. I'm happy to help.
Woo!
Hey, everyone, good to see you all.
Take care. We're almost at 4:30. Do we want to keep going? How are you guys feeling? Do you want to? I know Davine was thinking about. Well, there was something you wanted to talk about too, but I just want to see where you guys are at right now.
I just love all the suggestions that have come in and the warnings about, you know, make sure that you maintain control, because I think all stations are a magnet for people who are in it more for their ego than the community service that a radio station is. We certainly have gone through our hell about that. So
sounds like everyone has a story. David.
Yeah, now I would like to say what I was going to say before. Since we're sort of close to wrapping up, I think it's interesting that this was ostensibly about business models, and it turned into a pretty long and detailed and awesome conversation about underwriting and just sort of that end of the thing. Clearly, that's probably the most important thing to a lot of stations, you know, revenue, right? So I would like to talk more about business models, though. Because the station that I founded, I think, has a pretty interesting and unique business model. And I'd just like to talk about that with folks folks sometime, not today, but maybe in a
Okay.
future.
Well, we can, yeah, make this like a part 2.
Yeah, maybe something like that.
So when you want to talk about business models, you want to talk about more the full picture of kind of like the pie chart of what.
Yeah. The structure of the station. Yeah, just some of those details, but clearly this was what people wanted to talk about, and I think it was great.
Yeah, I did too. Okay, I'll make a note of that. Business. And what was the other thing too that you wanted to talk about, Davine? You were, or someone had a story that you wanted to hear. Is that what it was? No. I mean, it wouldn't have to be today, but no. Okay. David Furland, did I see you?
Yes, just what was like to go off of what David was just saying, and that is the business models themselves. We're at the stage right now where I'm still a college, the college radio station that hasn't had students in it in 20 years, but the college has run it. Furthermore, the college has been a distance college for 20 years. So there's been no students here, but the college has run it. So we're untangling the college model with a director and an operations manager and staff and a CPB grant down to 0, or down to what is a community radio station that isn't associated with the college at all. And so the license transfer is supposed to occur in March. And we're looking for a business model. So is it owner employee? Is it so? See if I getting David's the bigger picture of business models. Do we become a owner cooperative? How do you do that? Do we become a no employees, but everybody has jobs and does this on the side? Or do we have a monkey in the middle who does everything and hope for the best? Or what? We're already, the board, the new board is nonprofit, and we have a fiscal agent. But that's about it. And so we need to build a business model like, we're building it now. And it's difficult to untangle our habits and our understandings of reality based on the past. And so I would say yes on continuing the conversation about business models.
Okay, great.
Yeah,
and
I think
I just wanted to check with Louis. Did you have something that you wanted to say, or were you just stretching earlier? Louis Valdez.
Yeah, that was just a stretch.
Okay. Okay, good practice. Good practice. Anyone else?
Yeah, I'd be really curious to hear about how things go there, David Furland. I mean, it sounds to me like the board are the owners. So if you're saying they are the owners of a license, as I understand it, at least according to the FCC. If they are people that can be hands-on and will do the work, and that's part of the sort of job description of your board members. And I think that may be really important, especially if you're considering a station with no paid help at all. Then I think there's got to be, my guess is there'd have to be very clear rules about you need board members who can whatever, go down and throw the switch on the transmitter or whatever it is, people that are in there. Otherwise, I could see things going kind of badly. Or can you raise enough money to have an employee and a training program? Can you partner with a different college or to have a training program where you could have students or one employee and a student helper or something like that? I don't know, but I'd be really curious to hear how that goes.
Sounds like we got a topic.
Well, and just a real quick follow-up. Felix, what you described was the traditional model where you have a board of directors and their names are on the license. But one of the things I heard David Furland say was, an owner, an owner cooperative or a worker cooperative or something like that, where I guess you have a board, but the board is the owners and they're also the workers. It sort of formalizes what you described, Felix, where you have a working board. These models are fascinating to me. But, most of you guys here already have your structure in place. So it might not be as interesting to as many people.
Well, we had 30 people today, so I would say so.
Yeah.
And as David can attest, things change.
Right. So here's my question. Do you guys want to continue this for next week? Oh, my light went off. Do you want to continue this for next week? Or I was thinking of leaving it open as like a support group because it's like the day after the inauguration. We don't know what's going to happen. Or I wanted to get your opinion. What do you think?
Maybe leave it open, see what happens.
Okay, let's leave next week as an open forum, and then we'll plan for another business models part 2.
Thanks, Stephanie.
Okay.
Thanks, everyone. Great information.
Yeah, you bet. Good to see you.
Yeah, thanks all.
Part 2 or support
Thanks,
group. Okay, we'll
everybody.
do both. Thank you for joining us. This was wonderful. You guys are good at communicating. I think you're in the right field. Always a pleasure, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.